Okay, section 2.4. Still working on it. The last type of equations we have in section 2.4 are solving rational equations. So notice we talked about rational just a minute ago, but it was rational exponents. These are rational equations. So step number one, this means we're going to have fractions with x in the bottom. We're going to determine the least common denominator. The least common denominator is what you would multiply by to get rid of all those denominators. That's the goal. We're going to have fractions and we want them gone because we're solving. After we find our least common denominator, you're going to multiply all terms by that least common denominator. I'm going to call it LCD over 1 to clear fractions. And step 3, we're going to solve. So looking at page 14, 4 more examples, and we will call it a section. Example 3, solve the following equations exactly. Notice now we have x's in the bottom. In A, I only have one denominator that I need to get rid of. If you only have one denominator, that's who you're going to multiply by. So my least common denominator is going to be x plus 1 over 1. So I'm going to take every term and multiply it by x plus 1 over 1. So let me do this in a different color so we can see. I have x plus 1 over 1 times 6 over our original x plus 1. And if it helps you to put parentheses around it, that's fine. Keep your sign, so minus x plus 1 over 1 times 3 equals x plus 1 over 1 times 0. So notice I have my 6 over x plus 1, my negative 3 right here, my 0 right there. And I've got to multiply these out. Now the goal when we do this is that our fractions will divide out. So if you look at this first term right here, I have an x plus 1 on the bottom and 1 on the top, so that just leaves me this 6. And technically 6 over 1, which is just 6. Then I have a negative 3 that I'm multiplying by this x plus 1. This 3 has to get distributed everywhere. So I'm going to just kind of keep it like this. I'm going to say negative 3 times x plus 1. I'm going to put it in front so we can see it a little bit better because there's no fraction for that 3 to go away with. And then anything times 0 is 0, so be careful. That's a common mistake. It's not x plus 1. So cleaning this up, I have 6, distribute that negative 3. So negative 3x minus 3 equals 0. 6 and the negative 3 give me 3 minus 3x equals 0. Okay, subtract 3 from both sides. So negative 3x equals negative 3. Divide by negative 3, and x equals 1. And you could plug that back into the original and check your answer if you would like. Okay, part B. Here I have two different denominators. I have a 2x and an x. So for my LCD, since both of these have an x, I know I have to have an x to divide those out. But because this one has a 2, I also need a 2x. So the goal is to find something that you can divide out all of these fractions by with one time through. Okay, so I have a 1, I have this x minus 3 over 2x, and this x plus 1 over x, and each one of those is going to get multiplied by 2x over 1. So I have 2x over 1 times 1 minus 2x over 1 times this x minus 3 over 2x. We're going to have to be really careful on signs there. Equals 2x over 1 times x plus 1 over x. Okay, if you want to put parentheses, you can. And let's go through and divide out what we can. All right, so I have a 2x times 1 here. 2x times 1 is just 2x. Then I have my minus sign right here that gets carried down. The 2x on the bottom here divides out with the 2x on the top there, but I have this whole x minus 3 that's being subtracted. And we know that subtraction signs change everything behind it, so it's a minus the whole thing. So you either change the signs when you write it or put it like this so we can distribute. Equals, over here, 1x on the bottom is going to go away with the x on top, and this leaves me 2 with an x plus 1 in parentheses because that 2 has to get distributed to all of it. Okay, so once we're here and we're solving, we're going to take care of our parentheses. So I have 2x, distribute this negative, so it'll be minus x plus 3 equals, distribute the 2, 2x plus 2. Okay, 2x minus x is x plus 3 on the left equals 2x plus 2 on the right. You want all the x's on the left, numbers on the right. Okay, so subtract your 3. So I have x equals 2x, 2 minus 3 is minus 1. Then move these 2 x's over by subtracting them. Move it over to that left-hand side. So 1x minus 2x is negative x equals negative 1. And I don't want a negative. So to get rid of that negative, this is like a negative 1x. I'm going to divide by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. Okay, be sure you're pausing the video, asking questions as you have them. Let's look at C. You have one similar to C, I know for sure on your test, and there's another one on your review sheet similar to this. I know you've got 2 of these on your tests. Okay, C. I have in my denominator an x and an x squared. So this is like 1x and this is like 2x. So they both have 1x, but I have to multiply by something that's going to get rid of all my denominators. So my LCD here is going to be x squared over 1. If you have an x and an x squared, it'll always be the higher power. Okay, so same process. I have x squared over 1 times the 1 coming from right here. Then I have plus x squared over 1 times 2 over x minus x squared over 1 times 15 over x squared, and don't forget the right side, equals x squared over 1, and in this case it's times 0. Okay, so in black are my original terms, and then my LCD over 1 is in green. So I have x squared times 1 gives me x squared plus This x in the denominator of 2 over x goes away with one of those and leaves me x times 2, which is 2x, minus my x squareds divide out, leaves me the 15. And anything times 0 is 0. Okay, now I don't have a line, I have a quadratic. So now I get to factor. Okay, so to give me x squared, I have x and x. If I'm going to multiply my two terms and get a negative 15, I know my signs have to be different. And again, y'all, you can go over to the side and use that x that we did together in class if that's what you need to do. If that's what you need to do, go home and fill that in. Okay, so two things that multiply to give me negative 15 and add to give me 2 is going to be a positive 5 and a negative 3. So x plus 5, x minus 3. And then I set each of these factors equal to 0 and solve. So x plus 5 equals 0, subtract 5 from both sides and you get negative 5. And x minus 3 equals 0, add 3, and you get x to be 3. Okay, now I want you to try the check point. Work together. When you're done, your answers should be 4 and 3. So take some time. Find your LCD. It's very similar to this one right here, C. Find your LCD, multiply through to cancel fractions, and then factor what you have left and solve and see if you get what I got.